You've got a problem, change your fucking car.
It's lights out and away we go!
Hi guys, this is Rachel with Drive Media, and today we have a special guest with us. She is an 18-year-old race car driver over in the UK that currently races in the Ginetta GT series. So welcome, Leona Theobald. Hi, Leona.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm glad that you were able to do this interview. You and I actually already know each other previously from, from a previous interview, not affiliated with Drive. But yeah, so obviously you are only 18 and you started racing in the Ginetta Junior Series in 2021. So tell us, was this the first time that you were introduced to racing, or did you do any racing in the past, or was your family involved in motorsport in any way?
So it was my first racing myself. It was the Winter Series. But I'd kind of been into racing, and a friend of mine raced himself, and he supported me and kind of inspired me to get into racing. So I definitely had an interest before, but that 2021 Winter Series was the first type of racing, circuit racing, that I'd ever done.
Wow. So, you've only been driving for about 3 years now. And for you to move from the Junior Series to the GT Series in such a short amount of time is very impressive. So now for people that are not, oh, you're welcome. For people that are not familiar with the Ginetta series, obviously this is a series that's in the UK only. So are you going to possibly do any type of racing outside of the UK, or is the Ginetta series only going to be staying within the UK for the time being?
The main Ginetta series are in the UK. They have a few different championships. But I believe in the north of America, there's a Ginetta championship, and there's also some in Sweden. So there's a few around, but it's mainly based in the UK due to being a British car. But they're definitely trying to reach out, as well as the more endurance racing that they're stepping into. So getting the brand known, really.
Got it. Now, for you, are you wanting to branch out and possibly do some of the other series outside of the UK, or are you planning to pretty much stay within the UK?
No, I would definitely love to race in Europe or worldwide even. It's been quite a big step up this year into GT Cup, so it's the endurance side of racing rather than the quick sprint races. So hopefully, using the experience and knowledge I've gained through GT Cup, I can then make the big step out and go outside the UK.
Got it. And so obviously you are racing and also balancing being a student as well through the Motorsport UK Academy. So how are you balancing that and racing right now?
So luckily the academy is obviously motorsport based, so they're quite understanding if I need a day off to go to a racetrack or something. They're quite understanding. However, there is still the workload you get from it. It's all assignment based, so there's not any exams or anything, so that makes it a lot easier. But on weeks when it's not racing, you just have to sit there and get through it all and get all the assignments done.
Yeah, I am sure, trying to balance school and racing can be difficult, especially because, this would be you, pretty much having a college like workload, not regular like high school workload. So obviously it's a little bit more work, but for you, obviously, with it being motorsport related, yeah, like you said, they probably are a little bit more understanding of that you've got racing to do. Like that's kind of the whole point. So obviously with the Ginetta series, the racing season has already started. So how long is your racing season? So like, tell us when you start racing. I know you guys just started racing, so I mean you haven't been into the racing season too long, but like when does that end?
So my first race weekend was the one just gone. So it started about mid-April. And then I have 7 race weekends, and the last one I think is the mid of October. So it's quite a long period to only have 7 race weekends, but as soon as one's finished, you're already counting down to the next one, and then it's like, oh, this one's here, and then all of a sudden it's the end of the season. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you'll have 7 races until October. Okay. And obviously for the UK, that's actually quite a bit of time because you guys actually have multiple like weather seasons, right? Like you actually have winter, like unlike some places where, it stays warmer, for longer periods of time. So it's actually interesting that you guys actually race that far out, like into late fall, because the temperatures are going to be a lot colder too. And normally most racetracks tend to not race, when it starts to get cold. So yeah, that's a little bit different for you guys.
I know our last round, the end of last season, our last round, we have the testing on a Friday, and it actually got cancelled because just everywhere was flooded, like the track, the roads, we just couldn't go anywhere. It was just all flooded.
Yeah, and that's one thing about the UK. You guys have such a weird rainy season. So yeah. So I was really shocked that when you said that, oh, it's until mid-October. It's like you guys tend to have a ton of rain around, more than a lot of people do. So, but okay, yeah. And obviously they have to, be mindful of weather, period. But I mean, that's with motorsports in general. No matter where you are, like it can rain out, it can, whatever the case may be. But yeah, so obviously you're still driving for SVG Motorsport. So
Yeah.
and I know, the last time that we had talked, you were driving for them as well. So is this a plan for you to stay with them like long term throughout the Geneta series, or is there talks about you possibly moving to another another team? So how's that working?
I'm currently still planning to stay with SVG, so it's my second season with them. Obviously this season has just started, but it's crazy. It's kind of already time to start thinking about next season and what the plans are.
Right.
So there's talk of still staying with them, and I hope I can, and keep racing with them because they're an amazing team. So hopefully we can keep making the next steps up together. But I just find it crazy how early you have to start thinking about the next season. Right. You have to get going already.
Yeah, you definitely have to like start thinking about what your plans are, and then also not just like if you're going to stay with the team that you're at and move somewhere else, or possibly even move up, like out of the car that you're currently in to like something else. Yeah. But you also have to think about funding and sponsorships like right now for next season, even though you just started the season that you're in. So yeah, no, I completely understand that. And especially being, in a racing organization, and you're not just like racing like locally, like at your local track. Obviously, the funding is way more important because it's more expensive, right? And instead of like if you were just racing, locally and just bootstrapping that on your own. We've chosen an industry that's extremely expensive to be involved in.
Yeah.
Exactly, I mean, no matter what, whether you're funding it yourself or you're having to get sponsorship, either way, it's a very expensive, whether it's a hobby or it's a full-time career. It's like one of the most expensive things that
Yeah.
we could have all picked, you know? So yeah, like why didn't we just pick something that's a little bit like not as expensive, like basketball or something like that, where you don't have to
Yeah.
like spend a ton of money to like be a part of it, right? It's like, no, we had to choose cars. So
Yeah. Most expensive one.
right, exactly. Probably the one of the most, if it's not the most expensive sport, to be honest, I think it is because, you know, because you have to have so much stuff ahead of time to be able to even be competitive. And yeah, honestly, I
Yeah.
think motorsport probably is the most expensive sport to start out in. You know, now
Yeah.
that you think about it, um, but that's okay. It's like, but there's a reason why we are all involved in this sport and we have that passion for it, whether, you know, whether it's a driver like yourself or somebody like myself that's behind the scenes, you know, pretty much trying to bring that awareness for, you know, motorsport. Either way, it's like, you know, we all chose to be involved in probably the most expensive sport there is. So
The best sport though, so it's okay.
right. Yes, yes. I mean, I agree 100%. It's honestly, um, being involved in the sport, um, mainly on the local level, because, you know, that's just how it's been. You know, I hadn't been able to like really work outside of like my local community, but even just being involved in it for 19 years, and being able to meet like all the different people that I've met in the motorsports community. And then on top of, you know, being able to interview like women like yourself, it's really neat to see like all the different types of series that a lot of people might not know about, especially like the genetic series. I
Yeah.
didn't know about it until I talked to you. You know, like that was, you know, that was not something that I knew about because, you know, here in the, you know, here in the US, it's not well known. And so it's like
Mm,
being able to actually know anything about the genetic series, yeah, like unless you lived in the UK, you might not really know unless it's, you know, done in another country that, you know, that you might live in. But here in the US, it hasn't
yeah.
really been, you know, exposed to us. And so, you know, making people know more about these different series that, you know, they might not have ever heard of, you know, brings more awareness for you guys because then, especially since I know, you know, that the Genetic series does put their races out on YouTube. People can go
Yeah.
and watch them, you know, so if they're not within that area, if they're not able to physically go see a race, and they can at least try and watch it on YouTube. So I think that helps a lot now that motorsports is really heavily involved in social media. Um, because
Yeah.
now, you know, people can watch races in other countries that they're, you know, that they might not ever be able to go to or be able to experience. And, you know, be exposed to new series that they would have never heard of, you know, if it wouldn't have been for social media.
It is all quite good, the fact. I mean, obviously, I only know so much about racing in the UK, but most of it is
Mm-hmm.
all on YouTube now, and it's good that it's exposed that anyone can watch it, and even people that do live in the UK that can't make it to the track, everyone can watch it. It's
Right.
all live streamed, so I think it is amazing with what it can do now and who can access it.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely live streams help because, you know, and a lot of there's a lot of racing organizations that do it, you know, even like GT World Challenge, they do it. They stream on Twitch, right? You know, for people to be able to watch it live. And they also do it on YouTube as well. But they, you know, they mainly push Twitch. Because, you know, with Twitch, they also have like Ash Vandalay doing commentating for it. And so, you know, you get to have like a content creator, you know, where you can actually, you know, not just watch the race, but you can also learn a little bit more about the series, and she kind of is able to kind of go back through play by plays in a way, but it's just it's a lot nicer, like if you're able to watch it on Twitch in that way, because you've got somebody that is kind of like keeping things going, because obviously like you do stuff before the race and stuff like that. If it's when it's on YouTube, it's just like for the race only. You don't have that behind the scenes stuff before and after the race. But like those type of things, I feel it really helps people get interested in series that are not like NASCAR or things like that, where people just automatically know what it is. Even if they don't watch it, they know what it is, because it's just been around for so long. Between NASCAR and F1, people know what that is, right? Like it's not even if you're not even into motorsports, you know what they are. But I feel like them using YouTube for you guys helps bring that awareness to your organization, since not everybody outside of the UK knows what the Janetta series is. And also it helps you guys as well, because then it gets you out in front of people that might not have thought about like possibly sponsoring in the Janetta series. And it helps with sponsorship as well, because it's like, oh, well, I didn't know anything about this series, and then they're watching, and maybe like you come across the screen or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, I might be interested in like sponsoring her. And that helps you get that awareness as well, because I mean, everybody needs funding, and as much funding as possible. Like there's nobody turning down funding right now, so yeah, so I think it just benefits both the series itself, and then also benefits the drivers too, because it definitely makes you guys a little bit more well known than you would have been outside of social media. So
yeah, definitely. I think having it live streamed is obviously just nice for yourself. You get to watch it back, you get to see what else is happening, because obviously when you're in the car you may not see what else is happening on track,
right.
But then it's also really important for businesses and partners, because it's where their logo can get advertised. It's live streamed, thousands and thousands of people can watch it, so it's really good for a commercial side to offer to businesses. And obviously, like we said, anyone can watch it anywhere, so I think live streaming is almost in most championships now, and it's really good.
Yeah, I agree there. And definitely like you mentioned about the commercial side of it, because that's something that you can really use to your advantage, whenever you're trying to pitch sponsors. It's like, hey, we are live streamed through YouTube or whatever. So your brand will show up like on my car in front of thousands of people. Like it's not not just people that might be at the track, but also it'll be on that live stream, and that's permanent. So if anybody goes back and watches it forever, because I mean, it's out there for as long as YouTube exists, right? Then people can always see it. It's not something that goes away. But also, like you mentioned, going back and rewatching like replays as a driver is good for you, because then you can also like kind of critique yourself. Like maybe you didn't take the right line going into a certain turn, or things like that. Or maybe there was someone in your blind spot and you didn't realize it. And it's like, so, you just become more mindful of certain things that you did at a certain race. And so, it's always good to do that, because it's like you're kind of analyzing like what you did in the, in a previous race. Because I mean, let's say you're going back to this track in like, I don't know, like a month or so. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to rewatch what I did previously. So I make sure that I don't make those mistakes. If I did make any mistakes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, it's always good. It's always good to go back and use it as a constructive criticism type thing for yourself, not to be hard on yourself, but to be like, okay, like next time I need to go into this turn like this instead of the way that I did it previously. Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
you use it to improve, like, because there's always room for improvement. It doesn't matter how long you've been racing. Like, people make mistakes all the time. We're human, right? We're not perfect. So yeah, I mean, so it's always good for you to have that for feedback. Especially if you don't have somebody that's actually like filming it for you. Cause like some people do that, that was something that I would do whenever I was behind the scenes and would go to the racetrack on, pretty often, with my ex-husband. Like that's what I did. I would film when he raced. I'd film his hot laps. I'd film his heat and his feature, and he would watch it after, when, while we're like, after we had worked on the car or whatever, he would watch it for a little bit, because then if he saw that there was something wrong, like if he,
Yeah.
because obviously it was a different type of car. I mean, obviously this was dirt and it was a late model, but even so, like if he saw that like the car was acting a certain way in a turn or whatever, it would make him realize that he might need to change a specific thing on the car. So just being able to have that, in real time, like to be able to see, okay, well, this is what I did going into these turns. It's like, oh, well, maybe I need to change, I don't know, sometimes it could have been like very minor changes, like even drop in tire pressure, like the air pressure. Sometimes that could have even been a change that was needed, and it didn't always have to be something major. Sometimes it was just air pressure. But just being able to make those changes like that, I mean, can make a huge difference, for your whole entire night. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It's like being able to do that is always good. Especially if you have to start messing with the actual car to make changes to be able to go back out. But
Yeah.
and then that's another thing too, depending on like what type of organization you're in, you might have a crew chief and all of that to do that for you. It might not be like where, like us, I mean, we were doing this locally, so it was us like making changes to setups and doing stuff like that. But obviously the higher up you are, you have your own pit crew that does all of that for you. But even just knowing a little bit about that is always good too, because then you can kind of like explain to them like, hey, this is what's going on with the car, and it makes it easier for them to be able to make those changes. If you're a little bit knowledgeable and not just like, the car's just doing this, but I don't really know how to explain it. It makes it easier for you to communicate with them too. So
yeah, definitely. I feel like I obviously have like the team with me. Last weekend we have our team manager, and then we had, I think, 4 mechanics. So there's a whole team around you, but just if anything goes wrong or anything changes, I'm always there to try and learn, just to have a better understanding, because if they change something which affects the car one way and I get that feeling, then I can straight away know what to change. And it's just all learning. There's always different things you can do. And then the other thing that's new this year is having a radio. So if there is a problem, you can talk over the radio and they can prepare what needs to be done or get it sorted ready for when you come in. So I think it's great learning and knowing more about the car, even if you don't have to get hands on yourself. Just knowing exactly what's happening is really beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I mean, you don't have to be hands on, especially like in your case, that's not really possible because, you know, you have a team that does it, but just being able to communicate with them better about how the car is handling and all of that, because you know a little bit more, because you've been kind of like observing them or like talking to them more about like how the car works. Yeah, it helps, because then it's like you might even be able to make suggestions to them, be like, you know, this is what's happening with the car. I think maybe if we do this, it could, you know, it could be better. But, you know, like, I'm open to hearing what you think. Obviously, you're the expert, but like, I'm just thinking, you know, like out loud, right? But it gives you, it just gives you a chance to kind of like voice like what you think is wrong with the car, because you've been kind of paying attention. Right? So, but yeah, obviously, good luck with all like the rest of the season. I know, like you said, you just started your season, and I hope everything goes well for you, because I mean, you know, you've only been racing for 3 years, and just the progression that you've made in 3 years is extremely impressive. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what more you do in the Janetta series. And then who knows, you know, we might see you move, you know, either you might end up going to another Janetta series in another country, or we might see you move up like into, you know, some other series, you know, in the near future. So yeah, I definitely wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
You've got a problem, change your fucking car.
It's lights out and away we go!